Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry for the delay in videos. I was on a 2-week road trip. So I went from Minnesota all the way to Maine, and we stopped along the way at like a couple of states and saw a couple. It was really cool. It was pretty much just like non-stop. Every single day we did something for 2 weeks, so it was like kind of tiring. And if I'm being completely honest, traveling, I have found out, being severely depersonalized and like dealing with anxieties and a fear of, pretty much a fear of dying at like any minute, made the vacation really hard for me, which I know is like first world problems and totally like, oh boohoo, she went on vacation and didn't have fun, sucks to be her. But honestly, yeah, it was hard. It was hard going to so many different cities and seeing so many different things, and your mind not being able to process these things. One, going from Hershey, Pennsylvania, pretty much straight to Manhattan, New York. That was really hard because I was basically going, my mind was like really focused on like being out in like nature and in the woods, and like chocolate, because we went to the Hershey World Factory. And then basically from that went straight to our hotel, went straight to New York, where it was like lights and people and buildings and skyscrapers and literally like hundreds of people just like within inches of you. That was really hard for my mind to comprehend. I knew going into it that I was going to be really bad once we got to New York. I kind of didn't want to go to New York the same night, but we needed to get food, so we ended up going. The second time that it was really hard was being in the city of Boston was really hard. I've been to Boston before, my boyfriend's from Boston. We were walking around downtown, and so we were walking, and I was really focused on where I was walking and like the street and everything, and that was totally fine, but the second I looked up and like saw the buildings and everything, they felt flat to me, which is kind of weird. Honestly, it felt like a movie set. It felt like I was on a movie set. And it's hard when you have depersonalization, because it's like your mind is walking on like two different levels. So like one, you're in a city, everything's real, the people there are real, and you have their own minds and have their own thought processes, which in itself is like a really crazy thought. But your second part of your mind, the part that you're trying to kind of fight against, looks at these buildings and see that thinks that they're flat, and thinks that you can just kind of like push them over, or you can just like punch this wall and it'll break, and that's not really how life works. I don't really know why Boston specifically. Probably because it's kind of like a smaller Chicago, which is where I'm from, so maybe being in like a city that's kind of familiar but not really familiar kind of like mess with my mind. I'm not really sure, in all honesty. But yes, being on vacation unfortunately was hard. I was hoping that once I took a step back from my city and my job, and kind of took a step back from kind of everything, I was hoping that I would be able to relax and kind of just like focus and not be so anxious and not freak out all the time. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen. But back to the point of this video. So since my first video, and since I've started speaking up more and more about depersonalization, I have had a couple of people reach out to me, more so the past couple of weeks, and they've basically, these people have asked me, how do I get rid of depersonalization? And the people who have messaged me or like have talked to me, first off, I super appreciate that you guys have reached out to me. It honestly feels really good to be able to talk to other people who have this, and to not really be afraid to be able to be like, look, I have this, it really sucks, this is everything that I'm going through, and to actually have somebody else be like, yeah, you know what, oh my god, you're totally right, like, I have that too, I go through this is what it's like for me. That's super awesome. I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything like that. So any advice that I give, it's just stuff that works for me personally. I can't guarantee that this stuff will work for you guys. I will give my advice and I will let you all know what works for me. I will also say that I in no way have ever gotten rid of depersonalization. I've never gotten rid of it. I don't know how to make it stop completely. I only know how to kind of calm it down, or kind of like how to ground myself when I'm going through like a really bad episode of it. Again, as I said in my last video, I go through this all the time, every day of my life, basically for as long as I can remember. I want to say maybe since like middle school, but when I was in high school is when I like had a name for it and like knew what it was and knew more about the symptoms and was able to relate to more of the symptoms and all that stuff. I will link that first video down below in the info box in case you want to check it out. It is kind of long. This video might also be pretty long because I like to ramble. For anybody who has asked me how I get rid of depersonalization, again, I don't get rid of it. I kind of just have figured out little small ways to like calm it down, kind of ground myself. And basically how to push myself through it so that I can just kind of keep going on with my day. I'm at work. I've always worked in customer service since I was 16, 17, I think. I'm 26 now. Restaurants, I've worked at tourist attractions, more restaurants and cafes and stuff. Right now I am currently working at a doggy daycare, which I will get into in like a different video. But yeah, so here are my tips and tricks of how to kind of ground yourself from depersonalizing. So my first tip on how to kind of ground myself, especially if I'm like really stressed out, this helps me a lot. I used to work at O'Hare Airport in a little cafe there, and if you've never worked at an airport, you're probably lucky, especially working at a cafe in an airport, or any kind of restaurant, honestly, is like, it's probably the worst job I've ever had, because I would depersonalize really bad. I was really stressed out all the time. People were like constantly coming. Everybody was angry all the time because you're in an airport. My job was basically to like pour drinks and like get the drinks ready. And there were times where I was depersonalized so bad that I couldn't feel my hands, basically, and I would try to like grab the cups and I couldn't feel the cup in my hand. Sometimes I would have trouble just like gripping things, so that kind of played with that. So what I would do in that situation, I did one of two things. I either one, sang to myself, which sounds goofy. It sounds like it's not going to help you at all, but it helped calm me down, really, because when you're in a level of like high stress and you're to the point where your brain feels like really scrambled and you don't feel like you're in your body, and you know there's like tons of things happening at once, it's hard to like focus on one thing. But if you sing to yourself, especially a song that you really like, I think like Hum Hallelujah by Fall Out Boy was one that helped me a lot. What you're singing, you kind of focus on that one thing. Singing to yourself to like kind of help focus you and like help you concentrate on what you're doing and what you need to get done. That really helped me. This part, if you do it, maybe not when you're in a rush, and then if you go and find like a really tight spot, kind of just squeeze yourself into it, or I would kneel down all the time and kind of just like crank myself up like this into a small ball. Or like bury my face in my hands and just make it like as dark as possible. For some reason that kind of helps me, especially the deep breaths part. Like you can go, not even like find a dark spot, you can just go and like take a step to the side and kind of just like take really deep breaths and like try to count to like 5. Breathing exercises really help. So that's my first/second piece of advice on how to ground yourself: singing and breathing exercises. Sometimes if you say what you're doing out loud to yourself. That will help ground me. So like if I'm working and I'm like cleaning dishes, I'd be like, okay, like I'm gonna clean this one right now, and then I put that in there, I'm gonna, you know, rinse it off, you know, that kind of like constantly talking to yourself. And there's something about sometimes when you can't make a connection with your body and you can't feel what your hands are doing, you feel like you're not really there. Something about making that connection and like saying, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, that kind of helps make you feel like you are there. Since I work at a dog daycare, what I do in that kind of situation is like, so it'll be me and like, let's say like 15 dogs. So what I do to kind of stay grounded in that situation is kind of just like, okay, this is Henry, and this is Jameson, and this is his other dog, and this is his other dog. And like, if I just keep like naming off these dogs and like, this is what's here, this is what's here, this is what's here, that kind of helps like put me in my situation, or that I'm trying to do. Because I'm definitely one of those people that will start a project and not finish it. So what I have been trying to do is, everybody's really big into like bullet journaling, I think is what it's called now, except like online people post pictures of like their really pretty super artsy bullet journals. I'm not a super pretty artsy person, so mine looks kind of like this, and it's basically like my monthly habits in September, and then I'm able to log like what I'm feeling, like if I have a headache, nausea, if I'm tired, if I couldn't sleep, how my appetite is. And I can track down like how many hours I slept, did I do any exercise, did I take a nap, how much coffee did I have, did I sit down and watch TV for a long period of time. It's also a way to keep track of if I showered, if I brushed my teeth, if I like did self-care kind of stuff. Because when you have depersonalization, sometimes that's linked to depression and anxiety. And when you have this whole big mess of stuff that's inside of you, you kind of don't want to do anything. And it's hard sometimes to even just get out of bed. It's hard to take a shower. It's hard to brush your teeth. If I'm feeling depersonalized, if I had a memory, if I got to listen to music, if I saw my family. I also have Pokemon Go on here because that's something that has actually gotten me out of my house. A little less now because I'm getting kind of bored with the game. But it was something that was like getting me out of the house and wanting me to like go outside and kind of interact with people. And then I also have written here like which job I worked in, if I went to therapy that day. So this is all stuff that is good to log, especially because as like here you can kind of like go back and see like, okay, like I had a headache this day. It could be because I didn't get any sleep. Because I didn't get any sleep, I was feeling really depersonalized. So it's kind of like a good way to like see your whole month out ahead. I also have like a daily gratitude thing. I have my post-therapy notes, like things that we talked about in therapy, things that I want to talk about next time in therapy. I have my self-care ideas here, and then I have a space for my after-work rants. So like if anything happened at work, I gave myself that time. And then I also have a daily diary section here. So if I give myself a space to just kind of like write whatever I was thinking for that day. So get yourself a notebook. Even if you don't bullet journal, just having a space to like diary, have a space to journal, have a space to write about how you're feeling that day might help you to kind of keep track of like what you did. And it can kind of help you to be like, okay, like on the days that I get a lot of sleep and I shower and I make my bed, it makes me feel good about myself, so I kind of depersonalize a little bit less. Whereas you can be like, you know, this day I woke up late, so like my depersonalization was really bad, and I was really anxious all day. Doing stuff like that, keeping track of stuff like that is really important, especially if you are trying to get better. Maybe journaling doesn't work for you, maybe drawing, maybe like voice recording. That's all stuff that you should keep track of. I feel like this more than anything is probably going to help you. Not get rid of it, but just like be able to manage it. And again, like in the long run, you can look at it in a month view and be like, okay, this is where I can make improvements. This can help you. Photos. Take photos of everything. And I do this because I have really bad memory. So I can like go to work for 8 hours, come home and not even remember being at work. And it's like 8 hours. That's a big chunk of your day that I just don't remember. I don't even remember how I was feeling at work. I don't remember anything about being at work. Or I can be at home and then be at work and then be like, oh my god, how did I get at work? So I kind of take photos of everything. I take a lot of selfies. I take photos of like things that catch my eye along my commute, so that at the end of the day when I'm laying in bed at night, I can kind of look back at my photos and be like, okay, like yeah, this is everything that I did today. That's super cool. Like look at this cool photo I took even. Just kind of like little souvenirs of your day. So another tip, and this is, I know like not everybody has an apartment or a home where they can have a dog, but if you can't get a dog, I would suggest you get a dog or some kind of pet, like a service animal even. This is my dog Annie. Say hi! We adopted her last year in about December, and she has made the biggest difference in my life. Honestly, like at first I didn't really even like her, but as I got more used to having a dog around, and she is really in tune with how I'm feeling, and if I'm feeling anxious or like really sad, she'll come and hang out with me and like cuddle with me, and that has really helped. Sometimes even just like having that warmth there when you're cuddling with them on the couch can help make you feel like really calm. So I know this isn't an option for everybody. It doesn't even have to be a dog. It can be like a cat or a lizard or a turtle or a fish. But definitely I think that animals are a good way, especially if you are able to afford them and you have a home that they'll be good in. And I would say go for it. You do have to have time for them, especially think about what kind of breed of dog you're going to get. Annie is a Pit Bull Terrier mix. So she has a ton of energy, so you have to take her to daycare so that she can get all the energy out. It's also a good way to get you out of the house so you can walk them. Yeah. She's a big girl. She's almost 60 pounds. But we love her, and she's super cute, and she makes me really happy. So this is definitely a tip. Again, if you're able to have pets. Another tip. Talking to a friend, kind of slash go to therapy. And I say slash because I know that a lot of people can't afford therapy. I waited like 10 years to go to therapy. Well, one, because it like the thought of it kind of freaks me out, and two, because I didn't think I could afford it. And three, if you're a person of color, going to therapy is for crazy people. Or so, you know, that's what you're raised to think. You're raised to think that like only crazy people go to therapy. No, you're not crazy because you go to therapy. I've been going to therapy for about 9 months, almost a year actually. And it has changed so much for me. Before I went to therapy, I was already kind of like in stages of being able to like openly talk about this to my friends. The first part of my tip. If you can't afford to go to therapy, or there's not a therapist that you like, if you've already tried it and it's not working for you, have a friend that you can tell anything to. It can be an in-person friend, it can be an online friend, it could be me. It could be your mom, it could be your parent, it could be your sister, it could be anybody. Find one person that you can tell everything to, and you're not afraid that they're going to judge you. You need one person. And honestly, if you can't find that person for a really long time, I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a person that I could tell everything to. That's why I wrote, that's why I journaled. It does really help to have that one person, at least, to be able to tell everything to be like, hey, like, crap, like today I was super depersonalized, I, fucked this up, I feel like really stressed out and really anxious, and to just have that person, either be able to be like, yeah, like I had a rough day too, I totally get where you're coming from, or to just have that person be like, hey, I'm really sorry this happened to you, keep talking to me, I don't know, listen to you. I don't think that I don't want to say that it's the same as going to therapy, because it's not. Having a friend to talk to and like going to a therapist are two different things, but they can feel the same. Because if you go and you find a therapist that's really, really good, it can feel like they're your friends, even so I guess they're not really your friends, but it can feel that way. And so therapy for me is like the one place that I can go to. I go every Tuesday morning, and it's the one place that I can go to that I can be open and I can talk about like the worst thoughts that I have. I can talk about things that I'm like actually afraid of. They can help you kind of figure out things that you didn't even think about. I personally have a lot of issues with my family. Really specifically, I have a lot of issues with my father, and therapy has become that safe space for me to like go and talk to and just get everything off my chest, and just have somebody listen to me, as opposed to like being with my family and being like, oh, like my dad did this and it really pissed me off, and then to be like, well, I told you, like you shouldn't be talking to him and blah blah blah, where it can feel like you're going to like a kind of judgmental place. That's not really what you want. So as from everything else, my biggest piece of advice is find somebody that you can talk to, or go to therapy. See if you can go to therapy. A lot of times if you email them, like what I did, I personally was specifically looking for a person of color, a person who knows about depersonalization, like a person who has that in their specialty. That's really important, because if you go to therapy or you go to a therapist and they don't specialize in depersonalization, or like depression or anything like that, that's not going to do you any help, because you're going to go in and you're going to talk to them, and they're just going to look at you like you're crazy, or you're going to try to explain to them like, man, I went to this movie, or I went to downtown and it felt like a movie set to me and it didn't feel real, and they're just going to be like, well, it was, like you have to find somebody who does specialize in depersonalization. That's probably my biggest tip of all, like when you're looking for a therapist, is to make sure that they specialize in depersonalization and depression and anxiety, because at the end of the day, all that stuff kind of balls in together and it doesn't make anything better. So, find a therapist that you're comfortable with. You might strike out the first time that you go to a therapist. You might not like them at all. They might not make you feel comfortable. That's okay. Keep looking if that's what you really want to do. If that's the path that you want to take and you want to go to therapy, it might be some work. And the third thing is that I right away was like, I don't have insurance. I have some money to go to therapy. Ask if they work on a sliding scale. A lot of times therapists do work on a sliding scale. So those are basically my tips on how I kind of manage having depersonalization. Again, none of these are ways to get rid of it. These tips might sound stupid. They might sound silly. You might watch this video and be like, none of this sounds real. But again, these are things that work for me personally. So these are my tips. I hope that they work for you. I hope that at least one of these work for you. If there's anything that does work for you that I haven't listed, feel free to leave a comment below. And yeah, so thanks for stopping by. Thank you for watching. I apologize for the length of this video. But again, I like to ramble. Hopefully I'll be posting more videos soon. I'll try to get on an actual schedule now that I'm back and getting settled into my house. So yeah, see you guys.